man. It's like one year when you celebrate the 60th or 50th anniversary of one special. It's like the next year you find out that it's the 50th anniversary or 60th anniversary of another special. And this year it turns out it's the 60th anniversary of the original animated The Grinch. Or, at least in this case, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I call the live-action version The Grinch to avoid the confusion. So, essentially in this case, of course, as you all know this year, it's the 60th anniversary of what is to be probably one of the most well-known classics of all time. You all know the story, you all know the premise. It's based off a Dr. Seuss story, animated by legendary animator Chuck Jones. Worked on Looney Tunes, worked on the UPA animated story Gay Paris, which is Judy Garland in it. And of course, in this, has Boris Karloff not only doing the narration, but also as the character himself. But also, surprisingly enough, I found out that June Foray, the voice of Rocky, the squirrel from Rocky and Bullwinkle, as well as a bunch of other characters you might have heard of back then, if you've ever watched a lot of Looney Tunes or various cartoons in your day, also voices Cindy Lou Who in this, which I never really knew that. I never really actually knew that up until now. But you all know the story, but I'm not going to get into it because basically everyone knows the tale, so moving on. But essentially, it is a classic, and basically you go into anyone's house, ask them what they have for the holidays, almost guaranteeing you they'll have Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas in the library. I'm guaranteeing you that. So, now that we're done with that, we can move on to probably our next collection of films here. That being the British animated tales that has absolutely no dialogue in it whatsoever, The Snowman. But of course from these, there's one that I have seen and the other I haven't yet, which of course one I got last year in December, which I'm interested to take a look at the Snowman and the Snow Dog to see how that one is. So, I'm actually interested to see how well they do that. Is it a bit better? Will it be a bit better than the first one? Can it actually beat We're Walking in the Air, which is one of my favorite compositions from this? Or can it do anything better to make it at least interesting from the original, tale? I don't know, but let's find out. Between the first one and the sequel, I have no idea whether or not the sequel is actually on the same levels as the first one. But I kept to my promises and we did see the sequel. The Snowman and the Snow Dog. The follow-up to, of course, the British one that comes on every Christmas. I wouldn't know because I don't visit England. And besides that, I only know this because of articles. The Snowman. The Snowman is, of course, based on the best-selling book by Raymond, on one of the books by Raymond Briggs, which is about a young boy who builds a snowman, and he, of course, gets on a bunch of misadventures with him. And of course, the snowman takes him up to the North Pole to a festival and whatnot. It's a classic short, and of course, throughout it has probably two of my favorite compositions in all of it. The one where he's riding the motorcycle and they're traveling through on it. And then the other one is one where they're traveling up to the North Pole, which is known as We're Walking in the Air, which is probably one of my favorite compositions. And pretty much, I've stated that in all of the 28 Days of Christmas Marathon, that you could basically have this on in the background. as music, and I'd be surprised if, like, some of the Christmas music stations actually did that. Well, later did I find out that they actually made a sequel to this, The Snowman and the Snow Dog. Now, I never knew a sequel for this existed. Like, I never really did. Well, because A, I live in the US, and B, I only follow what's basically, at least I try to follow what's trending. So, it's not very easy trying to follow just about everything there is. So, it's not very easy trying to keep up with everything, especially when something is basically gonna get really old really fast. And it's pretty much the same way with every Christmas film. You can't keep up with every single content up on it, because always on Christmas, there's some little special that is there, but you don't have time to see it, or whenever. But in the sequel, The Snowman and the Snow Dog, we focus on a new character, a new, like, boy, per se. And this is a brown-haired kid, and of course he has a dog, which unfortunately dies on Halloween, right as they move into their new home. The boy is in despair, and he wishes to Santa Claus that he could have a new dog for Christmas. While playing and whatnot, and his mother calls him down for dinner, he stumbles upon a floorboard that's open as he comes across a literal box that contains all the stuff to make the snowman. Which, of course, contains the photo of the original boy. Which, of course, the brown-haired kid decides, well, I shall build him in his memory or whatever. And so, because it literally snows that one fateful England night, he decides he's going to build the snowman. And he does. Almost to an accurate description. And, of course, he winds up deciding, just in memory of his old dog, he creates the snow dog as well to keep him company. But, of course, being the snowman story, the both of them wind up coming alive and they get themselves into some interesting adventures. But not as interesting as the first one, per se. There wasn't really anything that stood out. They were basically the same thing. The dog was curious about it, they played fetch, and basically what happened is that the snowman decides to basically take him up north to the North Pole, where they get themselves into a sledding competition between a penguin that wants to win. I mean, there's not much really to say about that, of the snowman and the snow dog. However, there's like one funny moment between that moment in between where he travels up to the North Pole and where they're getting curious about a lot of things. When they're traveling up the hill with the sled and whatnot, setting up for traveling up to the North Pole, there's like this one moment where they're walking around and the kids in the sled and the snowman and the snow dog are traveling, and then the little girl sitting in the window playing with what I could guess is a plush or a figurine of the literal version of the snowman. I'm not kidding when I say this. You can take a look at the short for yourself. The DVD's available from Encircle. And in the short, she's playing with a literal plush of the snowman. And it's like, somebody must have been really creative to think of something. Maybe it was the, like, orange or redhead kid, whoever the name was in that kid in the first film, must have created him for that child. Created that plush or whatever, in honor of his memory or whatever. But that's some pure coincidence or whatever. But of course, a lot of you wonder, how does it all end, and what do I think of the song that tries to be "We're Walking in the Air"? The song that tries to be "We're Walking in the Air," it's not "We're Walking in the Air." Like, it just can't beat it. I tried, like, trying to listen to the lyrics through my soundbar, and I just can't hear the lyrics. It's just not that, I just cannot hear the lyrics for the life of me, what they're saying. At least in the first one I heard every single word, but I think the problem is with my bar is just, I think it's like the music's just too powerful to, like it's too overpowered, and it, like, overpowers the vocals. So, I guess until further, like, inspection, the song's okay. It just can't beat "We're Walking in the Air." Now, in the end, Santa winds up giving the brown-haired kid a present, and of course he winds up attaching it to the snow dog as soon as they get home. And in the end, the snow dog winds up literally becoming a dog. That's the first that happens. As of course they wind up falling asleep, as of course they wake up Christmas Day to find, of course, much like the ending of the first film, the snowman has literally melted. As of course they moan in despair of the snowman that has melted. What is it with this shorts and killing off the snowman? Do they literally not want to interact with the snowman after, like, nighttime or something? Does the snowman have, like, some allergic reaction to daytime? Is he a vampire? I'll never know. I have no freaking idea. Anywho, Snowman and Snow Dog, I think, is surprisingly enough a interesting follow-up. I mean, it tries to actually tell a good sequel to the first short, which has absolutely no dialogue in it whatsoever, with a few couple of exceptions with sound effects. The Snowman and Snow Dog's the same way. I mean, I think the only pieces of dialogue we get out of this, I think, is with the dog barking, and that's it. And with, I think, a few sound effects, I don't know. But overall, I think the Snowman and the Snow Dog is I think, going to be a new Christmas classic that some people may find enjoyable. I wouldn't know, because people just don't tell me a lot of, like, what they think of the snowman. And it's a shame, really. I would like to know what many people think of this, of what they think of this series or the original books. Because it is, like, an interesting series. Or even for that matter, if they did have a sequel books, or even series of them, like Anne of Green Gables, or whatever. Yeah, I just randomly named out a series, or whatever. But, getting off topic. I think that'll do it for today. I think, like, Vampire Snowman just did it for me. Stay tuned tomorrow as we take a look at more, like, weird, interesting, like, films to take a look at. Probably, like, maybe jump nostalgically to, like, some Nicktoons or whatever. Maybe even take a look at probably a more better, like sort of Rankin-Bass-esque look at SpongeBob SquarePants Christmas, because that is kind of a really interesting, actually kind of pretty good SpongeBob SquarePants Christmas special. So, at least until tomorrow, see you guys for an all-new episode. And maybe sometime down the line, I might bring you guys a review of Season 1 of HBO's original series, Westworld. So, see you then. Man, I can't believe my Grinch DVD is already busted. Can't believe I'm already gonna have to figure out how to replace that thing.